Hello everyone and welcome to the program. I'm Sean Okinbaloye in Lagos. It is 166 days to the general election, so a lot has been happening on the political scene and they are all happening quite fast. During the past week, presidential aspirant Tope emerged as a consensus candidate of the presidential aspirants coming together, packed. Mr. Tope was unveiled as a consensus candidate of PACT on Thursday after the aspirants voted amongst themselves.
I am not lost to the weight of the responsibility that has been bestowed upon me by my colleagues. Many of them also have a huge weight of responsibility in trying to convince their people beyond one speech at the podium that they will want to continue to commit to this journey to deliver a new Nigeria. I didn't win the presidential or the preferred consensus candidacy. I was only given a responsibility to represent a team of people. And I make bold to say that team will deliver a new Nigeria.
But since that time, some of those who were supposedly part of the pact have come out to say they were not down with the arrangement. Presidential aspirant Omoyele Sowore was on this show over the last week. He made it clear that he was never part of the pact. Kingsley Moghalu, the former CBN deputy governor, said he's still running despite the pact arrangement. Tope Fasua, also a presidential aspirant, he's been on the program also before. Was part of the pact, where we will find out later on the program. He will be talking to us on what played out on that day and its stance. There's been a lot of criticism, though, as a lot of Nigerians think they are the alternatives and why they cannot stand with an arrangement they made between just themselves, not to talk about what they made between themselves and Nigerians later on. Joining me to begin the conversation tonight on the program is a presidential aspirant of the ANRP, Mr. Tope Fasua. Thank you so much for coming on the program today.
Thank you very much, Sean. Good evening.
You were part of the arrangement pact earlier. You attended the inaugural meeting, so you said in the article that you wrote. What happened?
Oh, yeah, when something like this is coming up, everybody has to be humble enough. You have to make yourself available and go there and see what they're talking about and how it's going to play out. Everybody's trying to see how we can move the Project Nigeria forward and how our intervention as young people and not so young people is going to add value to the system. So, of course, when they called the meeting, we went. But the issue now became, when you go to such a meeting, then you have to have a voice in the meeting. You have to be part of how it evolves, So in the first meeting or the first day, that's on the 31st of July, I was there in the meeting. And, we were asked, okay, how do we proceed from here? My thinking as a strategist, is, was that, look, first of all, expand this meeting. Then when you expand this meeting, because there's more than 60 people who are trying to vie or aspiring for this post in Nigeria right now. When you expand the meeting, the next thing you take it to the public and let the public have a say and let them even see what we're doing, make it transparent. Then, of course, I was of the opinion that we have to have debate and also that we need to stretch it out. And I made an analogy, Sheung, that, listen, in the animal kingdom, when predators or, if you like, when predators like hyenas are chasing a herd of maybe antelopes or whatever, they isolate one person, one of them, very quickly. And I said, look, this is not the time for us to isolate one person. We can actually take that decision in January. It takes just a moment for anybody to say, listen, we're dropping for this person, everybody should support. But that the hard work that needs to be put in place now, we cannot escape that hard work. And that was my opinion to a very large extent in that regard, and of course, but however, that opinion was not taken on board, especially the part that has to do with, taking it to the public and the public debate. If we paired ourselves to debate and showed the world what we had to offer, and we put our ideas out there, then we'd have actually stretched that out over a longer period of time.
Because some of the things that you wrote in your article was actually intriguing about how you all came together. But the question will be that when you guys came together, you were coming on the platform of different political parties. Are you aware that the pact was not going to the party is not going to be on the ballot? And how will that actually transmit into people identifying to the pact as a platform for them to vote for?
Right. Again, that's another aspect of the issue, because on one hand, we had the spread in terms of the parties was not so large. Maybe at the end of the day, there were like people from 7 or 8 different parties. And we hadn't carried, there was no process by which we could actually carry the parties along and say, okay, this is what we're going to agree. Because ordinarily, the person that will emerge from PAC should be someone who will not even have to go and struggle in another primaries in the parties. So the party chairman, of course, I'm one
a lot
also,
of you don't even have the ticket of your party yet.
The party chairmen were not carried along at all. Even I, as the chairman of my party, nobody asked me, listen, go and get a mandate from your party that this is what you're going to enter into. So, of course, of course, I mean, people didn't, in fact, we felt at some point that a number of people that were there were people who, maybe people weren't sure they were going to get their party platforms, So the first thing was get your party platforms or go to your party, do your primaries, and let's come back and have an open debate and then throw this to the public and at the end of the day, we decide. But I felt to a large extent that the process was hurried. And that was look, we're talking about something that's so very momentous, a very, very major issue. All right. And, with that kind of major issue on hand, it's not what you decide between July 31st and by August 30th, 1 month. By August 30th, you had already decided that whoever is going. Of course, I had opted out before then because I saw that they insisted on coming out with that kind of hurried decision, and I wasn't going to be part of it.
So what happened? Because we understand that in that room, like 3 or 4 aspirants actually left before the end of that meeting.
Even in that meeting, for those who went, I mean, it's quite unfortunate. I mean, for anyone who had seen the way it was going, you see, this is politics, and in politics, people are going to, the first thing you have to expect in politics is you're going to get a lot of games being played under the table. So when you're going into politics, you keep your eyes open. But anyway, some guys decided to show up on that day. And maybe they were now realizing that, hey, this wasn't going the way they wanted. But you had already, in a way, they had boxed themselves into a corner. It would have been good for you to know that if this is not working the way... I'm an economic statistician, and when we're talking of very small samples like that, there's going to be huge bias.
But
there's going to be huge bias. How do you realize some of the disappointment
voting?